Hey there, this is Ann from Shades of Color and Light. You've joined me today for a great project because I'm going to do some things I've never done before, and that is color fall foliage and see how that's reflected in the water. I'm also going to tell you about what happened to my set today. I had a real brainy idea that did not work out, which I'll tell you that story in just a little bit. But dive in here, we're going to look at color perspective. So that's where our light is going to be shining like it's coming from behind my shoulder from the right. We're going to see how the fall foliage will reflect inside this water. And I hope that you stick around to the end to see just how we do that. So I've got plenty of tips and tricks for you, and let's dive right in. Off screen, I went ahead and colored the sky. That's got about 3 different shades of blue in it. And right now what I've decided to do is lay some foundation of green. So I picked a darker shade of green. And this is really up to your discretion. What we're going to do here is mimic some fall foliage, which does have some green. Ours is going to be very vibrant in the end. But what you want to do now, wherever you're going to see your fall foliage, you're going to lay down green on both sides of the water there. Now, on the left-hand side that I just colored, the sunlight is going to be hitting that side directly. The side over where I'm at right now is going to be a little bit hidden in the shade, except for the most forward front part of that. So when you're laying this down, you're using a very, very light touch. No heavy hand here. Just very, very light hand. Since we've got our base of green laid down, it's now time to start adding more color. And you can be as creative as you want with the colors that's in your fall foliage. This is your picture, and there is no right or wrong as to the colors that you're using. To get inspiration, you could go online to look at pictures, or you can just look outside or go outside and look at some different kinds of trees to see, or bushes to see what colors you may want to use. The only color I don't want you to use right now, though, is yellow. Reserve those for the end because that's what's going to really add the sunlight, the fire in this picture here. So it's going to look a little bit washed out, or the tones will look more muted, and that's exactly what you want right here. You want to use the lightest touch as you're coloring, almost barely holding your pencil, not using any hard pressure points at this time at all. We're going to reserve that for just a little bit. And part of the reason for that is because paper can only handle so much color. And if you press hard now, the paper becomes saturated too soon. And we don't want that because we're going to be laying down layers and layers of different colors and eventually different intensities of these same colors. Another tip that I want you to keep in mind is to keep track of the colors that you're using. It doesn't necessarily have to be in the same order, but you're going to want to use these same exact colors on the other side of this picture for the bushes on the other side. And you may also want to use them for the trees above. As you can see, I've laid down lots of color, and now it's time to start using pressure. You can tell with my index finger, I'm really pressing very hard with this red, as well as I'm using very small circular motions now. Okay, I'm laying in yellow, which this I'm laying over top of most of the colors. And again, you can see that I'm pressing very hard, coloring over these and blending some of these colors as I go with the pressure. And this is what is going to give this a very bright, sunlit color, and it will be very vibrant from here on out on this side. So right now, again, you're going to be using a lot of pressure. You're going to be using the same colors as you did for the very muted tones, only this time you're going back into some of these white spaces, as you can see me right now using the yellow that has no other color under it, so that yellow will be very bright. One thing you'll start to notice now is that where you're going over these other colors, your paper is going to start to get shiny. And this is what I talked about earlier with the saturation of the paper. When your paper gets to the point where it's shiny, it's almost glossy from the colors, it's pretty much reaching its saturation point to where you won't be able to lay down too much more color under it. And that's kind of what you want to do with your pressing very hard here, is you're saturating the color because you want it to be very bright and you want this to look very vibrant, like there is sunshine shining directly on these bushes. Okay, now I want you to see just how vibrant these colors are. And when you connect that to the whole scene, you're going to find that this here is going to become your pathway that's going to lead your eye right to here, to this mountain. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to come over here and we're going to color this foliage right in here. But I want you to pay special attention to this, because over in here is going to be darker, and then it's just going to be your tips here that you're going to do with the bright yellow, okay? Because the sunlight is heading this way. The sunlight is going from that direction, okay? So everything over here that doesn't have this direction of the sunlight is going to be a little bit darker, okay? I'm really happy with the way this turned out. Off camera, I darkened the sky and I darkened the clouds to make it look like there was a storm on the horizon getting ready. I'm very happy with how the foliage turned out light there, and I kept that a little bit darker, a little bit muted, like it was in the shade. Now we're gonna work on this water, which this is a main feature of this particular picture. And I want it to look like it's a very clear, possibly deeper in the middle body of water. So right in the center there, we're going to use a darker blue that I have in my hand, and I'm going to lay down a very light color. Again, I'm hardly going to press it all, but I'm going to start it there at the top near the mountain and make it a little bit wider as it goes down. Let's just take a little bit of a color swatch. I do recommend that you keep an index card near you. That way you can test your colors before you lay them down on your picture. So you're going to, right in the center there, I'm going to lay down this darker color that will hopefully give this body of water a little bit of depth. Right at the top here at the edge, it's going to be a little bit of shorter strokes. But as I get down to the bottom, I'm going to widen those strokes, pressing very lightly. In no way do I want to saturate any color. Just about finished up here. As you can see, I used very long strokes down at the end here. Very light, long strokes. You know, one of the things that I think that we could do more of as coloring artists in our pictures is to create depth. And that's something I just think we don't always think about. So what we would normally do maybe for a picture like this is just look at the water and just color it a blue. Pick a blue and color it without ever really thinking about creating depth or creating the reflection as we're about to do. Now I am coloring these particular leaves yellow because I've already decided that My birch trees are going to be yellow and gold above. I'm not going to make them multicolored as I have the bushes down here. So to create a picture that's a little bit different than everyone else's, to think about the added dimension of creating depth and shading and using the light perspective, I think is something that will set your coloring apart from anybody else's. So this might be some tips that you can use in the future to think about that. Now, I'm getting ready to do an experiment here. And I want to see do I want to use the colors, the fall foliage colors, underneath the blue of the water or over the blue of water. So that particular one is the blue water first, then using the fall foliage colors. This one is laying the fall foliage colors and then coloring the blue over top of it. I'm nervous, I have to be honest. I've never done this before, and I love the way my foliage looks, and I really don't want to make a mistake because I really like the way it looks so far. So I really don't like the one on the right, but I want to try it again just to see. And I just don't think if I color it blue first, I'm going to get the reflection of the color that I want. When you look at some pictures online, you might actually see that the water would look almost black. But I've made the choice and the decision that this is going to be a crystal clear stream, that it's going to be just beautiful. All right, I've made my decision, and what I'm going to do is lay down some color now. And I'm really nervous, kind of like a golfer getting ready to putt here, trying to make the right strokes. And on this side of the picture, we have not really laid any blue down. There's no color here. So we're going to use very, very light pressure points again, because we don't want to saturate the paper in any way at this point. We're laying down longer strokes, okay, because it's like a shadow or reflection that's coming from the bushes above this water. Okay, and then that little strip that's in the middle there between the bushes and the water, that's brown. That's going to be kind of dirt colored, sand colored. That'll come later on in the picture, but now's when you want to use the colors that you set aside, that you used in the fall foliage. You're going to randomly place them right there underneath that dirt or rock, if you want to color it rock when you get to that. So very randomly, short strokes, long strokes, very light color. And I'll come back here with the next segment when I finished with this. All right, I'm just laying some final touches down here with the red. I really love the way this is looking. It's looking very watercolorish, again, just very light color, as we learned from the little experiment that I just did. I think it's going to look the best underneath the blue. So now it's time to start laying a little bit more blue. I'm going to lay this down in the center, the strip where I had already laid one layer of color down. So being careful again not to saturate your paper, just very light. If you notice, I'm using the longer strokes. That's giving me the lightest touch that I could possibly have. I've spent a lot of time working on this water, so I've got one full layer of color down, as you can see, and you can kind of see the longer strokes that I was using there, okay? And that was just to give this a very light touch. Now I've got a different blue. I probably have about 3 different blues in here. that I'm starting to go over with a little bit darker. Watch my strokes. I'm going to be using very short, sometimes even circular strokes. But see, now I've got my fingers closer to the color of the pencil at the bottom, and I'm starting to go a little bit darker, starting to fill in some of the white spaces. With a harder pressure point. I'm not going to go with my final hardest pressure point because I know I'm going to come back through here and lay over maybe one or two more colors just to give this some more depth. And what I'm hoping is that my undercoloring, if you will, is going to work like underpainting would work if I was using acrylic or oil, and that is just giving something a little more depth. So this is going to take me some time. I'm going to come back in a little bit when I have more done for you. I've been working on this top section of the water for a really long time. There's at least 3 colors of blue, various shades of blue, and a little bit of purple in there. And you can see I'm pressing very hard now. I want to eliminate white space, and I want the water to look very clear. So no longer am I using the super long strokes, but I'm using very short strokes, round strokes, trying to get all of this blue to look as deep and as beautiful as possible. Now I'm going to start adding some of these colors over top of the blue. And you can tell my paper's getting pretty shiny, and now I'm blending some of the yellows and the oranges and reds together over top of the water, because again, we want this to look as vibrant as the foliage is above, giving this a little bit of a curve coming down. I think the undercoloring is really going to help. So let me get further along here. This is a really long process, so take your time and enjoy the relaxation as you go. I've finally gotten down to the bottom part of this, and I want you to see how I'm using the blue along with using the colors now to add darker shades. I'm trying to mirror if there's red in the foliage above, I'm trying to darken those colors underneath in the water a little bit. And instead of using the long scratchy strokes that I did initially that was under the blue, I am blending these colors and I'm doing some more rounded looks, more like the shape of the bush sort of reflected in the water. At this point, I'm almost winging it because I've really never done this with a picture before. The idea just came to me to have this foliage reflected in the water, and I'm really enjoying the peacefulness of the colors. And I hope you're enjoying coloring along with me and learning a few things as we go. Remember to like this video and share it, as well as subscribe to my channel. And I promised that I would tell you the story of my brainy idea with my set design, And that was when I was looking for a few pieces of decorations to put on the side of my silk. I bought from Joann Fabrics, they had little miniature bales of hay. And I thought, oh, that's going to be so cool, because what, looks like fall more than bales of hay, right? So it never occurred to me that the bales of hay were going to be like real bales of hay and just create a mess there. And that's exactly what happened. I had everything laid out to color. I'd spent a lot of time on it, and then I put the bales of hay there, and they got all those little what look like wood shavings all over the place. And I was like, oh no, I really didn't have time to go back and redo the thing. And I thought, if I tear up the velvet, actually it wasn't silk this time, I actually have this gorgeous piece of velvet that I found also at Joann Fabrics. I thought, if I go ahead and take the velvet up, I've got to redo where my pencils are and reposition the cameras and everything like that. And I don't know if any of you have watched my show that I did last spring while we were in the COVID quarantine. It was called It's All Good, Color Even When Life Isn't Perfect. And basically that's what I had to do, was that, more than anything, that particular episode really spoke to me that I need to just go ahead, even though things aren't perfect, go ahead, keep on pressing on. It'll be okay. It's all good, So I just kept on with it. I didn't remove it, and decided just to start the episode, even though I had just had an explosion there on the right hand side. So then, it really didn't become that important, because I did a lot of close-up shots, wanting you to see things, as close as you can. I am finally almost finished with this water. This is a short video, 25 minutes, but this has actually taken me about 3 days to work on and complete. So I don't want you to feel like you've got to rush through your picture. Take your time, come back to it. There's times when I'm finished for the day, head to work, come home, work on supper and homework with the kids and laundry and different things, and I'll walk and look at this piece and think, oh, I missed some blue there, or maybe I'll overlay this color. So there's a time for working on it, and then there's a time to just kind of let your eyes rest from your project and come back and look at it fresh with new eyes. And as we lay down the final pieces of color on this, I hope that you have enjoyed this broadcast and have a good idea on how to color fall foliage, and with some good tips. And make sure you come back for some more videos, or check out my other videos. But make sure to subscribe and comment and let me know what you thought.